Coming up on this edition of Southwest TV News. Winters in Saskatchewan offer an array of opportunities for outdoor activities. And as you plan to take advantage of the outdoor rinks and other favorite pastimes, dressing for the weather is key for all ages, especially when wind chill factors come into play. According to the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan, every day 1 in 10 people in the province will develop signs of some form of dementia. And this stat is expected to double by the year 2020. And despite an aging population in Saskatchewan, there are a few misconceptions around the illness.
It's an Avro Anson that sits behind me, and but the important part of this particular find is that it has its engines intact.
A unique acquisition, and one which Begley can hardly wait to get to its new home at the Swift Current Airport as part of a long-term project. Thanks for joining us here today. Well, as the temperatures fluctuate throughout the winter season, keeping yourself warm from the elements should be top of mind. Winters in Saskatchewan offer an array of opportunities for outdoor activities. And as you plan to take advantage of the outdoor rinks and other favorite pastimes, dressing for the weather is key for all ages, especially when wind chill factors come into play.
You know, we need to be, even in this modern day with polar fleece garments and all kinds of insulation and that, we need to take the winters seriously. We often talk about frost nip. Well, this is a kind of a mild form of frostbite where the skin kind of freezes, but the flesh underneath doesn't. It gives you kind of maybe a painful tingling or a burning sensation, and it's sort of nature's kind of little heads up that, hey, you're in a dangerous situation. You should seek get indoors or warm up those parts of your anatomy that seem to be hurting a bit. And then there is frostbite, where it's a much more severe condition, where both the skin and the underlying tissue or fat or muscle or bone actually do freeze. And we often, in seeing in those situations, you get kind of a white or a waxy, kind of a hard to touch kind of feeling. And sometimes there's no sensation, and that's the problem, is that people are just, their flesh is frozen, but they aren't necessarily feeling the pain that goes with it. And clearly there are issues there, and people should be attended to, first aid, or even bring them to medical facilities to have that looked after.
And if you're planning a road trip, be prepared with an emergency kit, a fully charged cell phone, and be informed of the weather forecast in advance, as the weather can change quickly on the prairies.
Don't be surprised by the weather. Know what's ahead of you and take precautions. And the other thing when we're traveling, I always think it's good news, a good sort of a piece of advice, is to let others know where you're going. So if you're planning a trip to Rosetown or to Regina or Saskatoon, it's good to let people ahead know that you're coming and that when you're leaving, when you're expecting to arrive, so that if there are any weather issues along the way, they can feel that that maybe some extra attention is needed if people are not arriving on time.
By taking a few simple precautions, you can make the most of the winter season, whether you're enjoying the great outdoors or taking a day trip out on the roadway. For over 12 years, Southwest TV News has provided the visuals for the defining moments in our community. Support your community and help us to continue our work. Support our sponsors by watching the ads on YouTube and by clicking the ads on our website. Pennies per click, which will help us continue to bring you the award-winning news coverage you've come to expect from Southwest TV News. January is Alzheimer Awareness Month, and in this report we find out the supports that are out there for both patients and families. According to the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan, every day 1 in 10 people in the province will develop signs of some form of dementia, and this stat is expected to double by the year 2020. And despite an aging population in Saskatchewan, there are a few misconceptions around the illness.
It's not an older person's disease. Really, anybody can get dementia. There's young people who get it who have it as a result of brain injury. And so this Awareness Month, we're really encouraging individuals to learn the ABCs of dementia by visiting our website, abcdementia.ca, and really becoming familiar with the warning signs of the disease.
And through her work at the Cypress Resource Center at the Meadows in Swift Current, Hurdle is available to answer any questions or concerns about Alzheimer's, as family members may already be noticing the early signs of the illness with a loved one.
So of course it includes memory loss that affects day-to-day functioning, difficulty performing familiar tasks, and the key is familiar tasks, disorientation to time and space, problems with abstract thinking, problems with language, loss of initiative, changes in mood and behavior, changes in personality, impaired judgment, and then misplacing things. And the key with that one is misplacing things in strange locations. So those are the 10 warning signs we really want to watch out for.
Early diagnosis is key for planning a treatment for Alzheimer's from the initial stages to long term, a process which can be trying not only on the patient, but that of caregivers and other family members.
It's hard for family members to watch their family go through that. They're a person with dementia. They have changing abilities, changes in their behavior, and changes in communication. And it's hard to watch people go through that. It brings up a lot of emotions for people, and there's a little bit of ambiguous loss and grief that goes along with the process. And so people can sometimes be grieving while somebody's still alive, and that's really difficult for people. And even identifying that that's what you're going through and seeking out help for that is really challenging as well.
More information on dementia-related illnesses and resources for patients and families are available through the First Link Coordinator here in Swift Current or online through the Alzheimer's Society of Saskatchewan. The City of Swift Current is working towards having an aviation museum. We have more in this report. Lloyd Begley of the Swift Current Museum is out for an afternoon drive, one with a special purpose. As he makes his way down the road approximately 20 kilometers south of Swift Current, he's en route to finalize the details for the transfer of a historic World War II artifact.
It's an Avro Anson that sits behind me, and but the important part of this particular find is that it has its engines intact, albeit dismantled to a large extent, but it gives us something to work with in terms of really examining how these things are put together. And if down the road we want to restore the aircraft in terms of a static display for exhibit at the museum, that'll help us certainly make our job easier in terms of rebuilding it.
A unique acquisition, and one which Begley can hardly wait to get to its new home at the Swift Current Airport as part of a long-term project.
Well, it all came about with different contacts that we've made in the course of the last couple of years with, thinking about the creation of a true, Swift Current Museum of Aviation located at the Swift Current Airport. The person who owns the hangar that the museum is going to go into contacted the person whose land we're standing on. And that person wants the aircraft behind me, or what's left of it, to be part of the collection at the new BCATP museum at the airport in Swift Current.
And before this 43-foot airplane was transported to the airport, a few crucial steps were taken.
So you can see behind me, we actually built a floor for the aircraft to sit on. That'll give the engine some support and the aircraft some support so the engines actually don't fall off the aircraft. We don't exactly know what kind of shape the support system is holding the engines in place, so we wanted to build a floor that it can sit on so that when we move it, it'll get moved intact.
A delicate and well thought out process to finally reach the Swift Current Airport.
We're going to stay off the major highways and roadways. We're going to use the provincial grid system to meander our way to the airport. And so it'll take us a little while to get there. We're going to probably travel at a speed of about between 40 and 50 kilometers an hour.
A collaborative effort stemming from a single donation of this wartime artifact as the City of Swift Current builds on its inventory for the proposed Aviation Museum, which will further attract visitors of all ages to the Swift Current Airport.
The last person I think that people ever felt that would have been inducted into the Swift Current Broncos Hall of Fame was Sheldon Kennedy. We have to and we can move beyond tragic events, and there's hope.
For over 12 years, Southwest TV News has provided the visuals for the defining moments in our community. Support your community and help us to continue our work. Support our sponsors by watching the ads on YouTube and by clicking the ads on our website. Pennies per click, which will help us continue to bring you the award-winning news coverage you've come to expect from Southwest TV News. Well, this brings to a close another episode of Southwest TV News, reporting the stories that matter to you. We always welcome your news tips. You can always reach us here by phone at our studio or by email to contact us at southwesttvnews.com. Also, be sure to join us daily online for the latest news from across Southwest Saskatchewan and so much more at southwesttvnews.com. And be sure to follow us on a range of social media. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm Carol Andrews.